Hey everyone, welcome. Today is Tuesday, May 6th, and we are going over the second part of chapter 8. I realized right at the end, someone mentioned that their chapter titles were different in the book, and that made me realize that there are some differences in the different editions, and the PDF that I had is a lot like Unlearn Your Pain, right? And that's what Dr. Schubiner says is the treatment for Unlearn Your Pain and Unlearn Your Anxiety and Depression. It's the same, but the older book, mine's a 2019 copy, I think, and it has some different things in it. And chapter 8 is a really big chapter, and then chapter 9 is kind of a smaller chapter. And in the newer editions, I think it kind of combines them differently. So anyway, we're going to try to get through what we can of the book version. And if you put in the chat, if you understand what I'm talking about, which version yours is, because it's actually named Reclaiming the Past in the book version that I have, where the PDF version that I had called it Finding Your Inner Strength. So just curious what your guys' experiences with that. And there are kind of some differences. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the slides up. And as I was explaining at the very beginning, I did not leave myself a lot of time to do these slides because I didn't realize how much there was. So we're also just going to be talking about some stuff a little bit as well. Not all of it is on the slides. And let me open that here. Sorry, I'm like running a little behind. Okay. Share screen. We'll figure it out. So we're going to go to chapter 8, part 2. Hopefully this gives you guys a week to catch up, right? So that if you're feeling behind and you didn't get to everything that you want to, you can think of this as a free week just to catch up. Oh, here, let's present that. Okay. Okay, so finding inner strength was the first part of last time. So the first chapter, or the first actually paragraph of the chapter is the same in both books, but this one is called Reclaiming Your Past. But I wanted to keep this slide on as a reminder because I feel like we can't hear this enough. Once you start doing this work, your mind-body symptoms often change. They could get better and then get worse. They could get worse and then get better. They could move from one part of the body to another or shift from one symptom, such as pain, to another one, such as fatigue, anxiety, or dizziness. This just confirms that you're on the right track. It actually doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong or that this won't work for you. It is part of the process. So trust the process. Okay, so week 2, Reclaiming the Past, Dr. Schubiner talks about the ISTDP framework. I actually forgot what ISTDP stands for. It's kind of what they based the EAET on, which is Dr. Schubiner's version of it, which is emotional awareness and expression therapy. Oh, interesting. PJ says her book has Reclaiming the Past as a chapter title in the table of contents, but the actual chapter is entitled Finding Your Inner Strength, reprinted in 2023. Okay, so maybe that's part of what's going on. Anyway. So interesting. Okay. So what we want to do is take time to recognize and express, so the awareness and expression of the important emotions. So anger, guilt, sadness, and how to love and let go. And a little reminder, not everyone will need to engage in this emotional processing work. For some people, just the knowledge of the science and the belief that they're not damaged and rewiring their brain just by that, just belief is enough for them, for their pain to go away. So don't feel like, this is again, you don't feel like you have to do every single exercise in every part of the book. But for some people, if you're you have that knowledge part pretty down and you're still not seeing changes, the emotional stuff is good to work on. And you may already know, you may have a sense like, okay, some stuff was up with my childhood, or, I never really learned about emotions. Like, this is for you. So dealing with guilt. Guilt is often a feature of post-traumatic stress. So post-traumatic stress, it's not like you have to be diagnosed with PTSD. That just means sometime after a trauma, and a trauma could be even something like falling off your bike and not having anyone there to help you, or witnessing an accident, or witnessing violence. Like, we all have trauma of some kind or another, big T trauma, little T traumas. Um, and if you're feeling guilty about those, whatever it is, then just know, first of all, that's normal for most people after a trauma to internalize it and believe that you've done something wrong. Especially with abuse, many times people who have been abused will believe that they did something wrong. They didn't run away, or they brought it on somehow. But there's actually research that people who, it's not necessarily the type of trauma that you have that determines how long you'll have like post-traumatic stress. Some people could actually endure some really horrific traumas, but if they're not internalizing it, if they could just say, hey, that was some psychopath that did that. I was innocent. I did nothing wrong. They actually would heal their trauma faster than someone who had more of a mild trauma, but felt guilty about it. Right. So although we want to be good people, and he says this later, we if holding on to that guilt for years and years and years, then of course that hurts our bodies. And if we can, basically, you'll see what he does. If you believe that you've done something wrong, and then you can turn the anger outward, that can help you heal. So guilt, just in general, comes from parents, families, religions, and cultures that teach us to be good. And then if you just realize no matter what we do, there's a chance we'll disappoint someone by our actions. And most people have rules that they live by that they don't even really think they're aware of. So our our rules are often unrealistic or unenforceable, like I'll never make a mistake, I'll never disappoint anyone, I'll always do the right thing, or I'll always be kind. So we can forgive ourselves for breaking such a rule. And especially if you think of in difficult situations like abusing relationships, that should be, family illnesses, family, comma, illnesses. Yeah, sometimes a difficult situation is family, but it's supposed to say family illnesses, um, economic hardship, or combat situations. It's very easy and often necessary to violate a rule or principle that we hold. So we can't, be perfect all the time. That's what this work teaches us. So guilt is a sign you're actually a good person who cares, right? If you were a psychopath and doing mean things and not having guilt about it, that would be showing that, you don't care about people. So guilt is showing that you care, maybe too much, about other people. And then when you can realize you're not the only person who has made mistakes, and it's very easy to make such mistakes in a difficult situation. So have some compassion for yourself. Learn to treat ourselves as we would treat a good friend instead of being our harshest critic. So if this same thing that you're guilty about happened to a good friend, how would you console them? How would you talk to them? Would you be like, yeah, you totally should have done something different? Or would you be like, hey, you tried your best. I know you did what you could with the tools that you had at the time. So making a mistake does not make one a bad person, just a human person. Realize that you are an important person and that you need to act to take care of yourself. Who else will? Also realize you deserve to be happy. I want you to just take a moment and think about what your rules are or might be for you to be happy. Is it if everything on your list gets done, then you can be happy? Or if everyone around you is happy, then you can be happy? Because you deserve to be happy just because you deserve to be. You're a human just like everyone else. And we don't have to do certain things to feel happy. Our worth is not based on that. You can't undo the past. Oh, that's supposed to say while. I did some dictating with these slides since I didn't have the PDF version. Okay. So while you can't undo the past, you can forgive yourself for your mistakes and make amends for them, right? It doesn't mean, oh, we just never think about it again. That's easy. Just forgive ourselves. Like maybe there are some things that you want to do differently. That's what we learn through experiences, right? But holding on to guilt about what happened in the past is never helpful. Never, ever, ever helpful. And shame is even like worse of a feeling. Shame, instead of I did something wrong, it's something's wrong with me. It's that feeling that they're unworthy or undeserving. And it's like an intrinsic belief. And it's common with people who have a difficult childhood. Really, they might think they have to do certain things in order to get love because their parents were just emotionally unavailable. But shame, um, yeah, shame is so there's an example that he gives, and there's an example that he gives for guilt too that I want to just mention. And since it's not in some people's versions, probably, I don't know, it wasn't in the PDF version. The example he gave for guilt was a mom that had a child with a chronic illness who ended up passing away, and the mom felt so guilty that she didn't do more, right? So, of course, it makes sense. She loved her child so much. She wished she could have done things perfectly, but there was no perfect. Like she did what she could, right? So Dr. Schubiner goes through that example. And then the example with shame, I think it was from someone who, I don't remember the exact situation, but childhood stuff, maybe abuse or something. And so he has the person, say why they feel shameful. And by the way, just so you know, like one of my very favorite coaches, she said that every single issue that she coaches on comes down to this belief of not feeling good enough or worthy about themselves. So it's very, very common, despite how you were raised. But with this example, at one point, Dr. Schubiner has the client or the patient imagine the shame and what it looks like. And it's like this big, dark thing, right? This I don't remember what it was. Anyway, it was some kind of creature, right? There was like this big shadowy dark thing. And then he has her imagine turning that shame into anger. Like, what would the anger do to the shame? And the anger pushes the shame down the stairs and it gets picked up by a garbage truck and put in. And so basically, the idea is if we can go from shame to anger, that's actually a very healing step. And it's so like counterintuitive. Like who thinks, okay, we should be more angry about this? But it makes a lot of sense when you know about the nervous system states. If you're in freeze or shame, then anger or fight or flight is actually a step up, a more regulated way of being than freeze, thinking it's my fault, something's wrong with me, right? Again, thinking of those people who couldn't heal their traumas because they thought it was their fault in some way. And then you can replace the shame with love and kindness towards yourself. Tell yourself that you're fine, you were good, you are worthy, you are kind. And I'm curious, PJ, that, where you said that you have this 2023 version, is this stuff in your chapter or was it not? Was it what we did last week? Okay. Anyway, so revisiting the past, lessons learned. So this is such important information. Our memories are not only inaccurate, not only often inaccurate, but they are constantly changing. So we know this because eyewitness accounts are very unreliable. They've done tons of research on people and memories, and they've seen that people may believe that they saw an accident that there was no actual footage of because their mind from the story they heard on the news makes almost this picture of it. And we can actually really believe that things happened differently than they did. Okay, so this stuff is not in your book. Okay, super interesting. Okay. I was wondering how many of the people are like, what is this? And how many are like, okay, here we are. This is what we were supposed to be doing last week. It's confusing to me, but we'll figure it out. Um, Okay. So how crazy is that? I watched this show. I think it's on Netflix, Our Amazing Brain, I think it's called. And the first one's on memories. And it says that we lose 50% of the details of a memory each year that goes by. So if you're remembering something from early childhood, like chances are the memory is kind of cobbled together from a few different instances, or and it's not to be like your memories aren't real, right? We're not trying to like um blame anyone for their memories or discredit them or say that's invalid. This is just how our brains work, and knowing that can help us get over the past and actually realize that the past isn't, just a fixed thing like we think it is. Your past is a summary of your memories, and your memories are always changing, so therefore your past is always changing. Okay, Alexis says, same as PJ. Not in the book. A table of contents are different than the actual chapter title. So I did not leave myself enough time to go through because I thought, oh, this is just a few things. So some of this stuff may be in our current chapter 9, if you have the new version, which it sounds like is my PDF version. But if not, there's just a little extra information that's here. So it's good. Okay, so basically, your past is always changing. And that's a good thing. We can actually remember our past differently. Part of this process, we'll reframe some things and find that like anger in those situations that we have the guilt and shame about, and then move through to loving and letting go, because it's really hard when the past is what triggers us, because the past is unchangeable. There's just nothing. It's like being mad about the weather when the weather's bad. Like there's nothing you can do to change it. So your mood is just dependent on something out of your control. So same with the past. Even if there's some really hard stuff that you feel like you really should feel horrible about, like find a counselor or coach or therapist or someone else out of your like immediate your brain or the people that you know with this situation, because again, no good comes from holding on to that guilt, anger, or sadness. So this is what we did last week. We introduced these writing exercises for week 2, the unsent letters. Okay, some of this info is in chapter 9 in the newer book. Yeah. So yeah, it's just kind of, it's like our memories cobbled together, kind of a little bit here, a little bit there, right? That's how these chapters are, but we'll make it through. Okay, so we talked about this last week. If we've had feelings like harm, unexpressed anger, resentment, fear, guilt, or shame, these are the kind of things we can write letters about. We're not going to actually send them, so you can write whatever you want. And then you can also express gratitude and thankfulness to those whom we may not have had a chance to thank. So, sometimes it's really good to do some of those gratitude ones too, but don't just do the gratitude ones if there's some kind of unhealed stuff from before. Think about different aspects of yourself you could write to. You could write to your pain or symptoms, your subconscious mind, the different aspects of yourself. You can write a compassionate letter to your younger self or future self who's happier, more at peace, and free of pain and anxiety and depression. And after each letter, reflect on and write a description of what lessons you've learned, what you've gained, and even ways you may have grown as a result of your relationship with this person, even if it was a very destructive relationship or interaction. Okay, and then this is the part I got to in my slides. So I'm going to go back to not sharing, and I'll just run through what he has in this version of the book. So you might not have it in your book, but he did have some cool exercises that I wanted to share and thought we could do together. So since I don't have a slide of it, I'll do it for the PDF, but what I wanted to show you is he has these cool exercises. I forgot. Is this in Unlearn Your Pain? I feel like I was looking for this once and couldn't find it. But basically, it's touching trigger points, acupressure points. And you can reprogram your brain by when you have those symptoms. Say, you suddenly have back pain or something. Okay, it is an Unlearn Your Pain. I just got so confused this week. I should have left myself more time to prepare this. I didn't realize how different they were. Okay, so there are some acupuncture points that you can use when there's stress, anxiety, when you're feeling a symptom, like a pain just comes on. And what you can do is there's one on the side of the palm that you can point or push on. And so if you want to do this with me, just run your finger along the side of the palm and it's where that long crease is, it looks like. And let's see. Sorry, I'm kind of reading it as I'm doing it. Because he says to point or to push that point, or you could do this fleshy area between your thumb and fingers and just pinch there and say the reprogramming exercises. So you could say something like this: even though I'm feeling whatever it is, foot pain or dizziness, I fully and completely accept myself. I know these sensations are caused by MBS and that I'm healthy. I will not allow this symptom to bother me. I'm going to recover fully, and repeat this 3 times while rubbing the acupuncture point. And then he says, too, when you notice the emotions, whether it's a symptom or not, you could notice, hey, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling guilty. Notice those emotions as they occur. And the more you notice when you're upset, afraid, resentful, or feeling guilty, then the better you'll be at recognizing and dealing with the emotion so that you don't have the symptom. So when you feel any of those emotions, just take a deep breath, stop, press firmly on the acupuncture point and say, even though I'm feeling whatever it is, guilt, anger, right? Maybe you notice you're being critical of yourself. Even though I'm feeling critical, I fully and completely accept myself. I know these emotions are normal reactions. I will not allow this emotion to stop my recovery. And repeat it 3 times. And then if you are noticing that you're encountering triggers or a stressful situation, so maybe you don't have the situation's not going on yet, but you're going to the doctor's office where you usually get a little stressed, and you notice that you pull up to the parking lot and that's a trigger. So immediately stop and take a deep breath, press firmly on the acupuncture point and say, even though I'm encountering in this situation, anxiety or stress, going to the doctor, I completely accept myself. This situation is normal and does not need to cause MBS symptoms anymore. I will not allow this situation to stop my recovery. And then repeat this 3 times as you're rubbing on that point and or the web space. And then he said that you could even take a few moments each day, even if you're not having a symptom. Take a deep breath, press firmly on the acupuncture point, remind yourself that your body is physically fine and that you do not have a serious illness. Repeat the following: I do not have a serious physical or emotional illness. I'm healthy and overcoming mind-body syndrome. I fully and completely accept myself, and I'm proud that I'm doing this work. Okay, so this is one example. It doesn't have to be that you do this. He says there are other mind-body therapies that can teach you to move in different gentle ways. So he mentions like yoga or Tai Chi or Qigong or focusing and like mindfulness, right? They can teach you to move in gentle ways, have confidence in your body, accept sensations in your body. So see what is most appealing to you. It doesn't have to be that you do this exact thing 3 times every day and that's going to be your cure. Start to use this process as your playground of like, what am I drawn to? What feels like it would work well in my life and easiest in my life. And then he has a section of rebuilding your life. And I think, yeah, I feel like this might be in the next chapter in some people's books. Um, so I'll just quickly say what this is, since I don't have slides for it. um, he says that there's like 5 parts. So just an overview is 1, decide that you can be pain-free. 2, figure out what you want to do. So maybe you want to start having more interactions with people, or having returning to work, or starting to play pickleball again, or things that you want to contribute to the world, things you want to leave behind or let go of. What parts of myself do I want to nourish or emphasize? So with that part, you can just think of without stressing yourself out, because I've had people kind of get stressed about this too. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do in the world and how I'm supposed to contribute, and nothing really lights me up. So, but this is starting to just figure out what you like you're dating someone and you're like getting to know them and you're getting to know their likes and dislikes. You can be curious with yourself. Number 3 is look at the big picture, being grateful for what you have, considering your gifts, maybe some return to, or like engagement in religion or spirituality, whatever that is to you. So when we focus on something positive that we do want more of, that's often more helpful than just trying to decrease what we don't want, right? If we focus on the symptoms and fighting them all the time, that's very different than focusing on what we do want, what we have. Oh yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I just saw in the chat people are talking about tapping. Yeah, that's a tapping point, right? The side karate chop thing. And it does sound like tapping when you're like, I completely love and accept myself despite feeling anxious, right? So definitely I think that's where he got that, or some version of mindfulness. But those are the exact words you'd say in tapping. So that's a good point. Maybe tapping is something that you like doing and you have a good meditation for it. You don't have to do the karate chop point or this exactly how he does it. Do tapping if you like that. Oh, yeah. And Melissa, I like that idea of dating or getting to know yourself, right? So many of us have been just programmed and spent years and years of our lives focused outward on other people and how they are and if they like us and if we're doing things right. And we don't even know anymore what we like. So maybe you even just like start to enjoy your cup of coffee in the morning before everyone else gets up or something. And that's that time for yourself that you can start to think of what lights you up? What gets you to that rest and repair state? Um, and then possibility, consider all the possibilities for yourself. Picture a future that includes a healthier and more productive you. So for some people, this can be intimidating or they're not quite there yet. So be patient with yourself if, thinking of all the things you wish you could do just makes you feel more sad. Because definitely that can happen. But maybe start with something little, right? If you're um, in a wheelchair all the time, maybe you're like, I would love to just be able to walk across the kitchen floor or something. If thinking like running a marathon is just so far out there that it's just, too depressing. Because I get that it can go both ways. So especially with this writing exercise I'm going to talk about next, choose something really small. Just start small. The last thing about getting rid of mind-body symptoms is kindness to yourself. So I'm just going to read a few of these things because I feel like we all need to hear this. Maybe it's again in chapter 9. Honestly, it might be on those slides. I don't know. But I'm going to say it twice, hopefully, then. So for all of you, listen and remind yourself that you are human. You cannot be everything to everyone. Accept your faults and still realize that you're a good person. Forgive yourself for your mistakes, just as you would forgive others whom you love. So it's not important to beat up on yourself every day for something that happened 20 years ago. It will stop your healing. It will not let you progress. But it is we know from the best ways to change, the best ways to heal, it's not through shaming ourselves, it's through compassion and loving ourselves, which most people have a hard time with. Learning to say no to certain requests. This can be such a hard one if you've been a people pleaser. Sending positive and caring messages to yourself. Recognizing many others have been in your situation and have survived and thrived. Accepting your feelings as being normal. Catching yourself when you send critical messages to yourself and replacing those with kind and understanding messages. And if you are finding that you have a lot of those critical messages and you start noticing that, even just noticing is a good first step. If you're not quite to where you can send yourself a kind message, like, oh, I'm great, if that feels too fake, at least you can be like, oh, there's my brain criticizing. Oh, there's that critical voice. That's not helpful. Even that will put some space between you and what you're thinking and feeling and what's really going on. Okay, figuring out what you need and not being shy about asking for it or taking steps to attain it. Do you like how that first part is figuring out what you need, though? Right? Because if we're just like reacting to other people and how they feel and trying to get them happy, we might not even know what we need. And we might feel guilty that, yeah, I need, an hour in the afternoon to myself so that I can restore and then, go back to doing stuff. Like, just figure out what you do need and then ask for it. Take time for yourself to do things just for you or just to relax and enjoy life. Not everything has to have a purpose that you're, getting done and producing something. Rest and relaxation is productive. That's when your body heals. That's the most productive time inward on the cells and your DNA changing, like all that kind of stuff. This is the rest and repair state. Okay, so standing up for yourself, realize that you're an important person on this earth and that you deserve to be happy and healthy. So who knew that in unlearning your pain, you're doing all this like self-development stuff and you're learning to not be a jerk to yourself and you're learning to actually forgive and get angry about things that you used to blame yourself for. So this actually does decrease your symptoms. So a lot of people do this work just for the self-development part of it who don't even have pain. They're doing identical work, but this will help you live your life in a different way that honors yourself and where you have some happiness. You'll have some ups and downs, just like every other person, but you don't have to, just when you're happy, expect that something bad will happen, right? So, and then he talks about developing an action plan. And this is actually, I will share this again, a slide from chapter 9 of my PDF version. So maybe you'll have this, or maybe it'll be in your next chapter. So we'll kind of give ourselves some time for that next time too. But you can start to think of what things you commit to doing, activities in this week or the next month or the next 6 months to a year, and things for yourself in the next week, month, or 6 months, things for others. So try to, give yourself some time to think about what you do want, what actually you do want to get out of this. What do you want to achieve and work on? So list the action. When do you plan on starting it? How will you accomplish it? What steps do you need to take? Which ones would you do first? And what kind of help or aid would you need? What strategies would you use? So you're just thinking of all the things. How would I do it? What would I think? What barriers might you encounter? Maybe I get cold in the morning and I don't want to get out of bed. And so, having my robe right there that's warm, just thinking of what barriers you might have. He even has you make a commitment and sign it. So if that resonates with you, if that's a little too like, now I feel pressured, just notice that. But that can help us be motivated, right? And then there's a worksheet for planning and carrying out the commitments when would you, this is the same stuff, right? When would you do it? What barriers? Yeah, so that's the same stuff. Okay. Oh yeah, page 229 and Unlearn Your Pain. Okay, so interesting. Okay, so we're just having kind of like chapters 8 and 9 are going to be a little like not exactly maybe what's in your book, but I thought it's kind of cool to see the other information too. And some of it we'll revisit next week when we do chapter 9, and we'll have one extra week. So we'll get together until June now instead of the end of May. So that's what I have for you guys today. If you guys have any questions or comments or want to share an experience that relates to what we're talking about, this is your time. And if we want to end early, that's fine too. But you can either unmute, raise your hand, and let's just talk about what's on your mind.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Roseanne?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good. I'm doing okay. Hey, I just got to tell you something. I had to have surgery 2.5 weeks ago to have a spinal tumor removed,
Oh,
but I'm doing okay.
good.
But it's been such a huge thing. It's really hitting my awareness. And this chapter that you're reading right now
Mhm.
is like me to a T. And
Yeah.
this is the thing that I'm really getting from it.
Mhm.
Because I had this past history of leg sensations that come and go,
Mhm.
and it's been interesting seeing this intertwine with recovering from real surgery, right?
Mhm.
But this is the thing that I'm really getting, and it's so simple. I mean, it's like I've always been so hard on myself.
Yeah.
All these things you're saying,
Oh my
so hard on myself to be Miss Perfect and not make mistakes. And
yeah.
this is the thing, it's really all about loving yourself like you would love your child,
Yeah.
like you would love somebody who you really cared about, who
Yeah.
you wanted to know that you love them
Yes.
and that they're okay. And you made a mistake, but we make mistakes, but I love you and I care about you.
Yeah. Mistakes
And
are how
it's
we
just so
learn, right?
simple. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you that because it's really simple. Of
Yeah.
course, you got to figure it out that you fit the fit criteria and all that stuff. But um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just want to chime in because
I love that.
it's been interesting. So
I'm so
thanks for
glad
your,
you said that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
thanks
thank
for the,
you. Because definitely I resonate with, like, I really think the most of my symptoms were because of this exact stuff, being so guilty, hard on myself,
yeah,
really more critical of myself than anyone else, having
yeah,
these rules that weren't, I didn't even realize I had, but they were like, I should be a perfect mom and I should be a perfect physical therapist, which, those already conflicted because a perfect mom would not
right,
work, and so I just
right,
like had this just gnawing in my gut, about how I just things weren't good and I needed to be better and I was so harsh on myself and actually
yeah,
digestive problems and like learning this stuff, like I said before, it's like we're not just being like, oh, okay, let me do all these things to get rid of the pain. This is starting to realize these are some lifestyle changes, these are some personality traits that we can actually change, but that, if we continue this way, even if we got rid of the back pain, we'd have some other pain or we'd have some other symptom, because this is not sustainable. We can't be like functional humans when we're beating ourselves up all the time.
And
And
the thing is that life is just full of opportunities to make mistakes.
yeah, it is,
And
right?
yeah,
Like, honestly, would you ever expect that a child would just be perfect all of the time? And what does that even mean? Because grandma's version of perfect might be different than mom's version of perfect. And like, it's just like doesn't even make sense when we think about how harsh we are on ourselves. But when I think at one analogy that I like is thinking of a gemstone or a diamond with all these different facets. And yeah, we could have a facet where, sometimes we are selfish. And we try not to not let that be the whole thing, but maybe there was a time that someone was hurt or offended and I was selfish. That's just one facet of me. And when I go through those experiences, maybe I learn how to be a little different in the future. But not even calling them mistakes, but just being like, these are learning, what is it called? Like a time that you can learn, experiences, a learning experience
Yeah.
versus
Learning opportunities.
a learning opportunity, right? A learning
Yeah.
opportunity. Because it's like, there's just no way we could be perfect by everyone's standards. It doesn't even make sense. We don't even know what that is. We could be in another culture and they have a totally different view of what you should do in a situation.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's been also very fascinating watching. One of the things to when you have spinal surgery, I never had spinal surgery before, but it was my neck. And
Mm.
one of the best things you can do is walk
Mm.
to heal your neck. And
Good.
not a mile, but so
Yeah.
I'm trying to chill,
Yeah.
because I have a tendency to just go for it. But
Mhm.
anyway, it's funny because sometimes I'll feel my left leg chiming in, and it's clearly neuroplastic. I am so knowing of that. And instead of I'm just doing these things and I'm saying, I love you, Rosie. I'm sorry. And I'm
Mhm.
sorry that you have this pain.
Mhm.
And I'm feeling sad because I had 18 years of it and I had lost my life, really. So anyway, but it's about consoling myself. And then I'll say,
Mhm.
and then sure enough, in an hour, or maybe half an hour, or maybe a couple hours, my ankle will feel okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
It's just rewiring. That's like real time rewiring your brain when you have a same trigger and a different reaction instead of, oh no, there's the pain. I wonder if I did too much. And oh, geez, I'm going to be down for a week now. And right, it's just
Oh,
trigger same. It's a pain sensation and the response is totally different. And then your brain learns those new neural pathways and then it produces the pain less and less and less.
yes, I'm listening to you. I'm listening to your book discussions, and I
Good.
wasn't on the calls because I've been out of
Yeah.
things for a few weeks, but I'm back and
Yeah.
I'm listening. And thank you for having these calls. I really
Okay.
appreciate them.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm glad you got on and made it and welcome back. And
Yeah,
definitely like, the good thing we know about that is like you did have a surgery. You had a real thing that was, cut muscles and all these things, but they heal. So every day, every part of it, I was gonna say every day in every way, it's getting better and better, right? Like it's actually like you can just know about that neuroplastic stuff that it's like if I start getting really, a lot worse, that's the neuroplastic part of it because things heal. Things do heal.
and wait, can I just say
Yeah.
one other thing?
Yeah.
So my doctor prescribed me oxycodone and methocarbamol.
Uh-huh.
Well, my old symptoms were neuroplastic,
Mm-hmm.
and methocarbamol helped me once in
Mm-hmm.
10 years. And so, but the surgery is different. This is like a different thing. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I was getting over the surgery, I was taking the oxycodone because it always took my left leg sensations away. That was the only thing that would take it away.
Mm-hmm.
But then I decided last night, instead of taking the oxycodone, which I was only taking once a day, but I'm going to take the methocarbamol. And
Mm-hmm.
so amazing. This is not neuroplastic, this thing in my neck. It's real. And the methocarbamol helped me a lot. And so it's like I had to really, it's like the brain thinks, oh, the methocarbamol never helped me before. Well, that's because that was neuroplastic. And
Mm.
so it's like you always have to be having this flexibility in your thinking, which is,
Yeah.
you know, you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. And yeah, definitely even though it's healing, there could be some neuroplastic components of it too. So it gets
Yeah.
very complicated. And so just, do those things that make the most sense for you and then just question everything, right? Just question everything
Yeah.
because our brains, our brains, we know from placebo studies, they could take a sugar pill and get rid of pain because there's that belief that it will help. So if you it's so cool. And yours is the opposite. You had a belief that it wouldn't help, but it did. And you had that recent surgery, but still, yeah, just keep your mind open with this process for sure. Okay, I'm
I
gonna,
just wanted to share that little tidbit with
thank
you
you.
guys.
I'm
Things
gonna,
change.
okay, thank
All
you,
right, take care.
Rosie.
Bye.
I'm going to go to the chat and then we'll go to Trina. So earlier, Melissa was talking about identifying with it. And then, yeah, true perfection changes from person to person, culture to culture. Allison, I'm struggling with receiving messages from siblings deliberately trying to make me feel guilty for not doing enough for my dad in their opinion. In my mind, I know it's not even true because I'm having increased symptoms because I know it's affecting my emotions. I feel very hurt and angry with them. I'd love any advice. Excuse me. Also, I get symptoms every time I'm with my dad, and I'd love to overcome them. Okay, so yeah, getting messages, even just receiving a text can be a trigger for us, right? If we're like, oh my gosh, people are mad at me, and and they're trying to make her feel guilty for not doing enough for their dad, and then you're getting these symptoms. So I mean, there are different ways of dealing with that for sure, um, but you'd look for a couple main things: changing what you can in your environment, and how can you be like more compassionate with yourself, stand up for yourself, have your own back. So maybe there's some kind of boundaries that you put up with your siblings, and boundaries don't mean like you can never do this or don't ever say this to me, because they're adults, they're going to do what they want. But a boundary would be like, hey, if you keep texting me trying to make me feel guilty, then I'm going to block you, or I'm only going to respond, you know if you're just texting about other stuff but not about this stuff, right? So you might feel a little more control with changing your situation. Allison, with my work, that what we've done is there are some ways of getting your brain to kind of disconnect from that trigger. So you might have a trigger response, like seeing a text and having this visceral physical response or pain. And there are ways of kind of doing some of these somatic exercises to further those apart. And maybe we have some time that we could do that actually. Um, that might be kind of cool because it's not in the book, but I have learned a bunch of other techniques over the years. And so we could work on like our own reaction to what's going on at the physical somatic level, or reframing it cognitively. Um, and then we could also work on just the environment, changing the environment how we could. And so if, for the dad example, it might be like, I just see him once a week and that feels good to me, or I just see him once a month. Because definitely, we can put ourselves in those situations more or less, but then we might feel guilty that we're not there more. So there's just all this stuff to work out when we're trying to please other people, right? Let's go to Trina and then let's go back to Allison if we have some time. So Trina, what's up?
Hi, how you doing, Betsy?
Good. I love that picture of you with your little doggy.
Yeah, that was actually my last dog. I
Oh,
never changed it to my new dog. That dog passed away during COVID. But
oh,
anyways, so I have pain in my leg and my foot and stuff, and I've been around, this stuff since I took the curable class way back years ago, and I've
mhm,
been in the conversation, done coaching with
mhm,
people and done everything, and thought I'm just like that outlier, that like I'm the exception, mine isn't neuroplastic.
mhm.
When I was incurable, Dr. Schubiner, obviously he didn't examine me, but on the call he said, no, it sounds like neuroplastic pain.
Yeah.
Then I went out to California and I saw Dr. David Schechter, and he
Oh,
said, well, you're kind of a mixed bag
oh,
because you have this atrophying and all this kind of stuff, whatever. So
mm,
I just, I thought, well, I've done this work for so many years, and like, maybe it's just that I am like an outlier, whatever. But long story short, I did need to be kinder to myself because I had a lot of negative self-talk.
yeah,
And I've been slowly, doing that.
yeah.
And then the thing that, so my pain has gotten so much better. Now it's not gone, and it's not perfect, but
Yeah.
it's so much better and it's so much more tolerable. But one of the things that really helped me is I found all these different art forms,
Mm.
and I now spend probably 10 or 12 hours doing art a day, and that takes me out of thinking,
Yeah.
and it just has me doing them and in the present moment and everything. And slowly it's just, then I'll see things like, if someday I get really stressed out, my pain gets really bad, and
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, see, like, okay, like I
Mm.
have a little bit under my belt now after like 8 years of like trying to chase the pain away, and
Yeah.
trying into just like letting go. And it's just, now it's just like, even when it, you know, isn't, when it comes back maybe as bad as it used to be, I'm like, yeah, but it's just temporary. It's just like, you've
Yes.
already, you've kind of seen the light, you've seen that
Yeah.
it has changed and been so much better. So now
Yeah.
you can really believe that it is so tied to your stress level and what's
Yeah.
going on in your life, and
Yeah.
the thinking and the anxiety and the stress and all of that kind of stuff. So it's just weird, because it's like for so many years I was just convinced like it's just not going to happen for me. It's never going to happen for me. It's just, I don't know why. Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe it was all that bad self-talk,
Yeah.
and it's just
Yeah.
never happening. And I've been doing it for so long. I've listened to every podcast under the sun. I've taken every class. I've done everything. I've read every book. And it's just not jiving with me. Like I could regurgitate everything everybody
Yeah.
else has said, but I can't like practice it. And it wasn't until I started doing so much art and got out that I'm retraining my neural pathways to
Mhm.
really calm down. Because when you're probably, I'm asleep probably maybe 7 or 8 hours a night, and then if I'm doing art, say 12 hours, and not a lot more hours in the day for me to
Yeah.
be fixated on my pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Gave your brain another focus. And it sounds like you
yeah,
worked on being less critical of yourself too, because someone could do art for 12
yes.
hours and criticize themselves the whole time and they wouldn't get out of pain.
Well,
But if
and it's so
you're doing art,
funny. Yeah,
right?
totally. And yes, and I do art mostly for like friends and neighbors and stuff, and I give stuff to charities and stuff like that. And people are always like, "Oh my God, you are so unbelievable." And I had imposter syndrome
Mhm.
until like yesterday,
Oh,
when I was listening to a thing about syndrome, and how like I couldn't ever accept, like I thought people were just like lying to me when they said, oh, it was so good. Like I thought it couldn't possibly be good because I'm not good.
right.
You know what I mean? And then when I heard it yesterday, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. Okay, I am really good, and I just have been selling myself short because I've
Yeah.
been beating up on myself. So it was like one more, notch in the belt that I'm like have under me, that I'm like, yes, like I am good enough, and my art is great, and people do adore it, and it is worthy, and I don't have to feel like I'm faking it,
Yeah.
like, and that people are just being nice. So, anyways, that's all I had to contribute.
I love it. I love it. If you ask like a 2-year-old if they're good at art, or 3-year-old, they'll be like, yeah, can you draw a picture?
Yeah,
They just scribble. They're like, yeah, it's you, and they're like, if you're like, can you sing? They're like, yeah, la la la, they don't care if they're off tune. They don't care that they didn't do a flip. They just, in their mind, they thought they did or whatever. Like, if we could just have that confidence again, but most of us, even when people tell us things, we don't believe it because we've been so self-critical for so long. We think, oh, they're probably just saying that. So it's not even
yeah,
about the outer feedback that you get. It's more this internal transformation of like, okay, I am good enough. I am worthy. I am talented. So that's a great story. I love that. And even if you're
yeah,
listening and you're like, okay, well, I don't have time to do 12 hours a day, just even if you did 30 minutes a day of something that you
right,
loved, you would see your pain decrease. Okay.
right. And the biggest thing is it's given me hope.
Yes.
because like
Good.
I have this like hardwired stuff. Like I remember that day that I was so good. Oh my God, the best I've been in 8 years. Wow, it's possible. Like it's just
Yes.
given me confidence. So,
Yay. Oh, I'm so
anyways,
glad. Good.
thank you.
Oh, thank you. Um, yeah, we just do have a couple minutes and I'm able to stay a little bit longer. But yeah, if you, Allison, want to come on and we could just do like an example of one of those little things that we could do to kind of release the emotion. I mean, there are definitely things that you could do, like Dr. Schubiner's talking about. If you're feeling hurt and angry, writing a letter to them, writing a letter to your dad. The unsent letters might be really fun to practice with. But what do you think, Allison? Gonna try it?
Hello. Yeah, I'd love. Do you have time?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So and what I'm going to do here, like this is one example of another version of something, right? So hopefully you're starting to get the idea that there's no like one size fits all. You have to do 1 through 10 3 times a day and you'll get better. It's you start to lean into the tools that work for you. So what I thought would be a cool thing to show you guys is this cool tool that my coach used with me, who she does hypnotherapy. And if you can think of something that's very triggering to you, it could be a food, or it could be a person, an experience. It could be for you. Do you want to do your siblings and getting a text, Allison, or being with your?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And you could do this for being with your dad too, but just use this same framework. And so what I want you to do, Allison, is close your eyes and think of your siblings and think of what they say that gets you angry and upset, and think of how it feels when you get a text and you worry that it might be one of your siblings, or you actually see that it's them and you have to click on it. And just tell me what happens in your body when you're imagining that. Do you start to get some sensation?
Yeah, I start to get sensation in the heart center. I start to get sensation in my bladder, uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. How strong from 0 to 10, if you like really get into thinking about their texts and what they say and how upsetting it is?
So right now, just thinking about it, I can get to about a 5.
A 5. And if you thought about it a little bit more, could you even get it a little higher, up to like a 6 or 7 or 8?
Yeah, it's like the more I think, it's the more it's building in the heart center.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys do this for yourselves if you're playing along. So let's see, how high did it get up? What number would you give it?
Maybe about a 6 or 7 now.
Okay, so let's say 6 or 7 now, and then go ahead and open your eyes. And I want you to look at a spot that you can focus on. So it's not going to be, don't look at your screen, but look at something on the wall, maybe a picture, something out the window, and then just focus on that spot, stare at that spot. And then I want you to soften your gaze so that you start to open up more and more of your peripheral vision. So you're starting to soften those eye muscles and see more and more of what's to the sides of you. And then maybe even imagine that you can sense what's behind you. As you're facing forward, focusing on that spot, see if you can even maybe have an idea of the space that's behind you or imagine it. How does that go, Allison?
Yeah, so it's going down.
Mm-hmm. Is that number lower?
Yeah.
What number would you give it now?
Maybe about 4.
A 4? Okay. I want you to close your eyes and think of the same things again. Any of that same stuff that bothers you with your siblings, how you get angry or upset or frustrated with them, the texts they send, they're guilt tripping you. Just notice how it feels this time. You can rate it from 0 to 10. How does that go?
The sensations like changed, and it's like um it's quite bizarre.
Yeah.
It's like yeah, it's quite bizarre.
So they changed like a different place, different.
It's more like just kind of kind of like thinking of the same situation,
Mhm.
but the sensation's not coming up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there a different sensation coming up at all, or is it like almost just like it's
It's
less
like it's
or
going.
blurry?
It's just like it's going.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, let's go ahead and have you open your eyes again, and we'll just do maybe 1 or 2 more times through this process. If you're doing this and you go from like a 8 to like a 7, you might repeat this 4 or 5 times. So you can just repeat this process however many times you like. But go ahead and open your eyes, find that spot, open up that peripheral vision, give yourself a few breaths. If this is hard for you, you can also exhale by like imagine that you're breathing out through a straw, and try to lengthen that exhale as you do this exercise. Just noticing more of what's around you and maybe even what's behind you, you could imagine, or what's below you or above you. And then you can check in with your body and notice if there's that shift, if it feels more calm or relaxed or open. And then Allison, if you open your eyes or actually, sorry, close your eyes and think of the siblings again and think of getting a text from them and think of the mean things they say. How does that feel now?
I'm smiling because it's nothing.
Yeah, it's just nothing. Yeah.
Nothing.
So interesting, right? This is like, I always do it with my fingers together. It's like your brain has this trigger response, and this exercise just puts some space between that trigger and response. And then you could just have the trigger without that response.
It's quite magic.
It's quite magic. I do think so too. I think it's really fun to just, because we can do a lot by reframing things and thinking of things differently. And, oh, you don't need to feel mad about that or whatever. But this is just like, it gets at that somatic level, the body level.
Yeah,
And it just, like we were talking about changing your memories from the past, it like changes the whole feel of it, even
yeah,
though they're still doing the same old thing. It's just like, that doesn't matter.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks for staying on for that. And
Thank you so much.
you're so welcome. Yeah. So you guys, there's a few, there's all these tools. There's a few other little tricks, some of us coaches and therapists have up our sleeves. So if you're struggling with applying this stuff and need a little extra help, there's definitely coaching options. I have a group coaching program and some one-on-one coaching. So anyway, feel free to check out my website for those. And next week we will go over chapter 9. Who knows what it'll be, some kind of repeat or, I'll try to stick to, I don't know, I guess what the PDF version is might be what you guys have. But anyway, I'll try to get to anything that seems like it's lacking between the two versions. Okay. All right, you guys, see you next week. Take care.